Outlaw Nation, Chapter 10. 6 a.m. the next morning came early. The members were finishing up breakfast and gassing up the bikes. It would be a 4-hour ride upstate to their destination. Roger felt good. He liked riding his motorcycle. The sun shining on his face, the wind against his skin. He felt a peace that he could not explain. A peace that he had not ever experienced before. The stress and worries of the world and everyday life just seemed to melt away when he was on his bike. From the moment he jumped on the Kickstarter and fired up the V-twin motor, feeling it rumble beneath him, he felt alive. As the crew rolled along the secondary highway heading north, outrunning the beautiful landscape on either side, Roger was in good spirits. The more time he spent on his electric glide, the more convinced he was that motorcycling would always be part of his life. He felt it as it weaved itself into the fabric of his being. He looked over at Hammer, who was riding at his side. He smiled and gave Roger a thumbs up. Roger smiled back. He twisted the throttle, closing the gap between him and the two riders directly ahead of him. Hammer accelerated to match his speed and stayed at his side. Buddy Tanner rode alone at the head of the pack, Lee, the club vice president, directly behind him. The members would weave in and out from one another, occasionally jumping onto the yellow line and passing each other. Buddy Tanner, however, always was in the lead position, with Lee behind him, unless he directed otherwise. Buddy was a man of smaller physical stature. He was quiet and reserved, but at the same time he commanded a certain respect among the membership. It was always clear that he was in charge, a position within the club hierarchy that nobody ever challenged or questioned. This group of outlaw bikers, the club as they referred to themselves, operated with a very specific set of rules and traditions. Some of those rules were written, and others simply known. Buddy ran the club with a military-like precision. Truth be told, all the members, having been former military, liked the sense of structure and discipline that provided. A mindset that they had been taught in their time in the service to the country. A mindset that had served them all well. It was familiar. It was comfortable. However, unlike their time in the military, this lifestyle offered them a freedom that they had not known. A freedom that few have ever known. Up ahead, there was a bar and grill off the road on the left. Buddy shifted down and rolled into the large dirt parking lot. The members followed closely behind. Buddy announced, "Lunch break, boys. Let's keep it to an hour or so." He glanced at his watch. "Let's be ready to ride at 1300. Buddy looked at Lee and nodded. Lee said, "Gas up before we eat, boys." Buddy wanted the members to have full tanks in case something happened and they had to leave in a hurry. It was pretty standard protocol for these types of runs, even in places like this, where they had been several times and knew it to be club friendly. They still tried not to leave anything to chance. They walked in behind Buddy and Lee. They took a table in the corner and ordered a pitcher of beer and lunch. Sitting at the far end of the bar was a large man sipping on a beer and holding court among the regulars. He made eye contact with Buddy and nodded toward the door to the back room. He got up and headed back toward the door. Buddy did the same, following him into a small back room that contained a desk and a couple of chairs. There were cases of various brands of liquor stacked in the corner. The big man took a seat behind the desk and motioned for Buddy to take a seat opposite him. He glared at Buddy. He reached into the bottom drawer of the desk and pulled out a stack of cash wrapped in a paper bag. He slid it across the desk to Buddy. "Here's half. Go ahead and count it." Buddy took the cash, put it in his rucksack. He chuckled. "Big Mike, my man, I trust you, bro. I know you wouldn't try to stiff me." Mike nodded at Buddy and said, "My boys will follow you guys up in the truck to the storage locker. Make the switch quickly. I'd like to hold off to dark if you don't mind. There've been a few new faces around here lately. That always makes me nervous." Buddy smiled as he shook hands with his friend. "Don't worry, Mike. We got it covered. Wait until dark's fine with us. I'll let the guys know to relax. We'll leave at dusk." Buddy walked out and joined his crew at the table. He told them the plan. Sit tight till dark, then move out. Go easy on the drinking. I want everyone sharp when we ride. Hammer, concerned, looked over at Buddy. "Problem, Prez?" he asked. Buddy responded, "Nah, just being cautious," as he looked around the bar. As the afternoon wore on and the sun began its descent behind the mountains to the west, Buddy called Mike over to the table. "Mike, get your guys ready to roll out. 20 minutes. Mike nodded. Buddy motioned toward the bar. "Mike, those two guys sitting at the edge of the bar, you know them?" he asked. Mike said he never saw them before today. Buddy said, "They came in about 20 minutes after we did this afternoon. Been there ever since. I caught the shorter one checking us out in the mirror a couple times. I get a weird feeling about him." "Probably nothing, just paranoid." "Mike, tell your guys 20 minutes out front." Mike nodded and walked away. Hammer looked over at Buddy. "Prez, you're a lot of things, but paranoid is definitely not one of them. What's going on?" Buddy looked around the table. "Not sure, but we can't afford to take any chances tonight." He looked at Roger. "R, you think you can take those two guys at the end of the bar?" Roger shrugged. "I don't know. Give it a shot, I guess." Buddy smiled. "When we leave, you walk out last. After we clear the door, turn around and get their attention. We need a 10-minute lead on them boys. Got to make a turn off into the Indian reservation, up the road a couple miles. Don't want them to follow us through there." Roger nodded. "Well, even if I can't take them, I should be able to slow them down long enough to make that happen." Buddy nodded and smiled. "Well, if you survive, there's a diner down the road a piece. We passed it on our way in. Go there and wait for us. If not, well, Big Mike knows which hospital to tell the ambulance to take you to. We'll be in touch." He chuckled. Buddy slapped him on the back. "My money's on you, brother. There's only two of them." He laughed. Roger just looked at him, managing a smirk. Buddy said, "If we aren't back in 4 hours, head for the clubhouse." Roger nodded. And then Buddy said, "Hammer, you and Lee head out to the bikes and wait for us. We'll be along in a minute." Hammer and Lee got up and walked out. Buddy looked at the bar and said to Roger, "Okay, they're definitely watching us." The short one nearly fell off his stool, turning around to watch him leave. He looked at his watch. "Let's go." When the others had cleared the door, Roger turned around and squared off with the bigger of the two men. "What did you say?" he demanded. The guy turned to face Roger. "I didn't say anything," he answered. Roger swung and hit him solidly in the face. He tumbled backward and fell to the ground as his partner stood up. Roger swept the beer bottle off the bar and smashed it over his head. He went down also. The first guy was getting back on his feet when Roger kicked him in the side, sending him back to the floor. They stood back up together and rushed Roger. Roger smiled as they advanced, jumped up and kicked the first guy in the chest. He fell back, grasping for air. The other guy pulled a gun, and Roger swept around and quickly and efficiently disarmed him. He used his own gun, smashing the butt against the man's head, knocking him unconscious. Then, as he held the gun on the other man, he walked over and smashed his boot against his head, knocking him unconscious too. Roger walked out, kicked his Electroglide to life. He got on it, headed back toward the diner. Smiling, he thought to himself, that was too easy.